It started with a phone call on a gray February morning. My mom, Darla, had her usual upbeat tone bright, rehearsed, a little too smooth. "Your dad and I were thinking," she said. "We've got the new downtown unit sitting empty. Why don't you move in?" I didn't say anything right away. I'd been hunting for a new place for months. My current apartment had a leaky ceiling and a roommate who ate tuna out of the can at midnight. A quiet space near work sounded like heaven. I asked what the catch was. "No catch," she said quickly. "Just cover the basics utilities. Keep it clean. Maybe chip in a little for wear and tear. It's better than renting to strangers. And we trust you." She paused, letting that word hang. Trust, my father. Emmett, followed up by email. He called it a family-friendly arrangement. Minimal rent, flexibility, a stepping stone. He even included a short lease agreement, 6 months, renewable, informal. I skimmed it, signed, and moved in 10 days later. The apartment was sterile at first. White walls, tall windows, the kind of place that looked expensive but unloved. I bought a mattress and slept on the floor for a week. Each paycheck, I added something: a couch, shelves, a real desk. I chose soft lighting, thick curtains, small plants that wouldn't die in one season. I painted one wall a muted teal, hung 2 framed prints, and began calling it home. Every receipt went into a folder habit. Not paranoia, just something I did ever since college, when I learned the hard way that even family favors can come with fine print. My parents came by once in a while. Emmett would nod in approval. Darla would smile like she'd been right about everything. It finally feels lived in. She said, "You made it beautiful. I made it mine." Until the day I came home to a voicemail from Darla, chirping. "Just a heads up, Brand's moving in for a little while. He's had a rough patch." I replayed the voicemail 3 times. Darla's voice was as cheerful as ever, like she was inviting me to brunch. "Just a heads up, Brand's moving in for a little while. He's had a rough patch. No details, no timeline, no question mark at the end." It wasn't a request. It was a done deal. I called her back immediately. She picked up on the first ring. Chipper. "Hi, sweetie. Got the message, Mom." "What do you mean, Brand's moving in?" She tisked softly. "Rhea, don't make it dramatic. It's just temporary. He needs a little support right now, and you have the space. I work from home." I said, "I'm here all the time. This isn't some spare room in a basement. He won't bother you. He's really trying this time." I didn't know what trying meant. Brand had tried reselling sneakers, day trading crypto, dog walking, and something involving NFTs. All of it lasted a few weeks, then fizzled out into late mornings and loud music. My jaw clenched. "I just wish someone had asked me," I said. "Oh, honey, you're so good at handling things. You've always been the stable one." I hung up before I said something I'd regret. That phrase the stable one used to feel like praise. Now it sounded like permission to be taken for granted. Brand showed up 2 days later. Unannounced. I was prepping lunch when the buzzer went off. He didn't wait for me to answer. Just bounded up, arms full of frozen pizza, 2 duffel bags, a monitor under one arm, and a gaming chair dragging behind him. "Yo," he said. "Like we'd planned this. This place is sick. Mom and Dad said it's cool if I crash here." I stood there, spatula in hand, watching him set his stuff down without even asking where. He left his shoes in the middle of the floor, opened the freezer, shoved in his pizzas, then dropped onto my couch like he belonged. He didn't ask about rent. He didn't offer help. He didn't say thank you. That night, I went to bed listening to his game headset through the wall, thinking about how fast a home becomes something else entirely by the 3rd morning. I was brewing coffee with noise-canceling headphones on. It was the only way to drown out Brand screaming at his teammates over some first-person shooter. His voice cracked through the wall's trash talk, laughter, the occasional slammed controller. Every hour felt like a reminder that the apartment wasn't mine anymore. Not really. I tried to keep my routine intact. Morning stretch, pour over, meetings from the kitchen table, but even that became a minefield. Brand had turned the living room into his personal battle station, 2 monitors, LED lights, cords snaking across the floor. My coffee table pushed against the wall. He needed space. Apparently, when I stepped into the room during his break and said, calmly, "Hey, is the living room going to be your setup long term?" He didn't look up. "My room's got terrible Wi-Fi. Out here's faster." He said, "Also, not enough outlets in there. You got, like, a surge protector." It wasn't a question, it was an expectation. By the end of that week, my boss had asked twice if I could control the background noise. Once during a client call, someone asked if I was working from a college dorm. I laughed. Sort of. One night, I finally asked, "Hey, rent's due this Friday. Are you planning to contribute something?" He didn't even pause the game. "Oh, nah. Mom and Dad didn't say anything about that. They said I could stay here." "They didn't mention rent?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. "Nah. I figured it's like, you're already covering it." "Right. Like part of the deal." I stood there for a moment, not angry, not even surprised, just stunned by how easily he'd assumed I'd pay for everything without question. Like that was my role, his safety net. I started keeping a notebook after that, just small things. Dates, incidents, every little moment that chipped away at the walls I'd once called home. I didn't know exactly what I was documenting, but something in me knew this wouldn't fix itself. It started with the olive oil. I was making my dinner when Bran wandered into the kitchen, opened a cabinet, and muttered, "We're out of olive oil." I didn't look up from the stove. "Yeah, I noticed." "You should probably grab more," he said, like he was placing an order at a cafe. "You mean we should grab more?" I asked. He blinked, caught off guard. "I thought you handled that stuff." That stuff. As if groceries just appeared. Like oxygen. As if I was the default supply chain manager for this apartment simply because I bought the first round of things before he arrived. I didn't argue. I just made a note. And the next morning, when the paper towels ran low, he sent me a text. "Out of paper towels. Can you grab some after work?" No, please. No offer to split the cost. Just assumption wrapped in entitlement. That weekend, I called Emmett. I didn't yell. I laid it out. I told him Bran wasn't contributing, that he'd taken over the living space, disrupted my job, and treated me like a live-in assistant. There was a pause on the other end. Then, "Look, Rhea, you're doing well. You've got a good job. You're stable." He's struggling. "So, I carry the difference I asked. You're not carrying anything you can't handle." I nearly laughed, not because it was funny, but because it was expected. Later, Darla followed up with a text. "He just needs time. You're so good at holding things together. This won't be forever." No one had asked me if I wanted to hold anything. They'd just put it in my arms. That night, I looked at my receipts folder. I wasn't sure what I was looking for yet, but I knew I was done pretending this was balance. They picked a cafe with exposed brick and overpriced omelets, one of those places they used to take me to during college visits to remind me I was doing well. I thought maybe this was their version of checking in, or finally asking Bran to pull his weight. I should have known better. Darla smiled as she stirred her tea. "We've been thinking about the unit." I set my fork down. Emmett jumped in. "It's a prime location. We could be earning a lot more from it, honestly. The way you've made it look, it's practically turnkey." Darla beamed. "You've really brought it to life." "Sweetie, it's beautiful now." I waited. "We've been considering adjusting the arrangement." Emmett continued. "Nothing crazy, just bringing the rent more in line with market rates." "Adjusting," I said, "doubling it." He said plainly, "We figured it's fair. Bran's still getting back on his feet, and we can't afford to keep giving the place away." I stared at them, unsure whether to laugh or walk out. "You're asking me to pay double," I said, "so that Bran can live there for free." Darla shifted in her seat. "Well, he's struggling. You're not. And you've had a good deal for a long time. This just brings things back to neutral. Neutral. As if I'd been cheating them all along by paying what we agreed." You can always move out if it's too much. Emmett added, "We'd understand." They smiled, like they were offering me options. That was the moment it clicked, not just that they were siding with Bran again, but that they expected me to feel grateful for the chance to be taken advantage of politely. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I finished my omelet, paid my half, walked out into the rain without a word, and when I got back to the apartment, I opened my laptop, pulled up the folder labeled Home, and started counting. Every receipt, every purchase, every single thing I'd paid for to turn that space into a place worth stealing. I didn't start out with revenge in mind. I started with a spreadsheet. One column for the item, another for the price. Then date of purchase, store, receipt folder location, the couch, the bed, the lamps, every fork, every towel, even the stupid little plant Bran knocked over and didn't clean up. I pulled photos from my phone before and after shots from the day I moved in. Empty room. Full room. My work. At first, it felt like overkill, but the more I listed, the more I remembered. The day I hauled that bookshelf home in the rain, the exact shade of blue I picked for the curtains to soften the afternoon light, the way the rug muffled noise during Zoom calls. It wasn't just stuff. It was the life I had built. Piece by quiet piece. I added everything. The rug, the curtain rods, the coat hooks, the shower caddy, the underbed storage bins, even the little felt pads I stuck under the chair legs so they wouldn't scratch the floors. Every detail had come from my hands, not theirs, not his. I printed copies. I cross-checked serial numbers on receipts. I took photos of each room, wide angles and close-ups, time-stamped and backed up. If anyone asked what was mine, I'd show them. If they accused me of taking what wasn't theirs, I'd prove it. Then I booked the truck. Not a moving company, just one of those rental box trucks you pay by the hour. I chose the biggest size they had, just in case. There was no announcement, no warning. I went to work each day, ate dinner, slept, let Bran blast his games and dirty the counters. I smiled when he asked me to grab more trash bags. But behind my closed door, I folded cardboard boxes like someone rehearsing a goodbye. The truck arrived at 8:45 sharp. I met the driver downstairs, signed the papers, and backed it into the loading zone. No one stopped me. No one questioned it. I took the elevator up alone. Keys in one hand, checklist in the other. Bran was still asleep. I started in the living room, unplugged the TV, coiled the cords, wrapped the remote in a towel. The rug rolled easily. The shelves emptied into plastic bins I'd labeled the night before. Everything had a place. Everything had a record. Next was the bedroom, my mattress, my frame, the lamp I assembled on my first night there. Kitchen after that. My plates, my utensils, even the drawer organizer I bought at Target after measuring the space twice. By the time Bran shuffled out in pajama pants, rubbing his eyes, the coffee table was gone. The LED lights he'd strung around my shelves flickered once, then died when I unplugged the extension cord they were leeching off. He blinked at me. "What? What are you doing moving?" I said. His face contorted. "Wait, like, for real? Right now? Yeah, today." He glanced around, saw the bare patch where the couch had been, the stacked bins, the blank wall where my framed prints once hung. "You're really taking everything I didn't answer." I wrapped the toaster and slid it into a crate. He followed me as I lifted the last kitchen box. "What am I supposed to sit on?" I looked at him for the first time that morning. "Figure it out." He didn't follow me after that. By noon, the apartment was empty, not trashed, not ruined, just returned to its original state, lifeless and echoing. I left only what wasn't mine, which turned out to be very little. A bag of Bran's laundry, a pair of tangled earbuds, and a hoodie on the floor. I locked the door behind me and tossed the keys through the mail slot. By the time I was at the storage unit, organizing my boxes onto metal shelves, the texts started. First Darla, then Emmett, then both at once. The official letter arrived 4 days later. My parents were suing me for over $10,000 in damages and stolen property. They claimed I had gutted the apartment, removed fixtures, and compromised the intended function of the unit. Their words, not mine. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I scanned it, forwarded it to my lawyer, and opened the folder titled Apartment Documentation, Receipts, Photos, Delivery Confirmations, Emails, time-stamped before and after shots. Everything was dated. Everything had my name on it. My lawyer, Maya, smiled when she saw the file. "You're the most organized client I've had all year. They wanted to make it a fight, so we gave them one, quietly, legally, precisely, in small claims court. The room was plain, the air dry. My parents arrived looking polished but uncomfortable. Darla gave me a strained smile like we were running into each other at brunch. Emmett didn't look at me at all. Their lawyer spoke first, some stiff man in a navy blazer. He rattled off vague claims about implied agreements and communal furnishings. He waved around a blurry photo of the apartment when it was furnished and called it proof. Then Maya stood. Calm, clear. She laid down a binder with over 50 receipts, high-res photos, and highlighted texts. One, in particular. She slid forward to the judge and read aloud. A group text from Emmett. "Weeks before the move-out, we didn't do a thing. Rhea made it livable." The judge raised an eyebrow and turned to their lawyer. "Do you have any documentation proving ownership of the items in question?" He fumbled, muttered something about verbal agreements. The judge shook his head. 10 minutes later. It was done. Case dismissed. Court fees awarded to me. They owed me over $8,000. Emmett's jaw was tight. Darla didn't speak. I walked out without looking back. By the next morning, Bran had started texting again from a new number. No apology. Just a string of messages blaming me for nuking the family. I blocked him before the third bubble appeared. That night, I opened my laptop, scrolled past the old apartment folder, and opened a new one. It was called Home, for real. The check cleared 2 weeks after the ruling. I didn't celebrate. I didn't post about it. I didn't even tell most of my friends. I just walked into a quiet open house on a drizzly Saturday morning, met a tired realtor named Leslie, and asked her one question: does the bedroom face the street? It didn't. The unit was small, older, and had scuffed baseboards and a cracked tile in the bathroom, but it had light and quiet, and no one else's name on the lease. I made the down payment with the settlement money, every dollar earned through proof and silence. I didn't borrow from anyone. Didn't ask for help. I signed the paperwork alone and slid the keys into my pocket like they weighed something sacred. The first night, I sat on the floor with a slice of takeout pizza and stared at the blank wall across from me. No TV, no couch, just stillness. I listened and heard nothing. No game yelling, no pots clanging. No second voice in the hall asking me to grab paper towels, just my breathing, and the soft hum of a building that didn't need me to fix it. I unpacked slowly over the next week, built new shelves, bought a second-hand table. This time, everything was still mine, but it felt different. There was no performance behind it, no one to impress, just me choosing what felt right. No one asked to visit, no one offered to help. And I didn't extend the invitation. Not because I was bitter, but because this place was mine before they had the chance to take it from me. I didn't need forgiveness. I didn't want approval. I wanted peace. And now, I had it. What came next wasn't revenge or rebuilding. It was something simpler, something quieter. Boundaries. The message came on a Tuesday afternoon. I saw the preview on my lock screen while I was slicing a lemon. Graham. We made mistakes. You're still our daughter. I stared at it for a second. Not angry, just tired. It always started like that, some vague acknowledgement. A sprinkle of guilt. The soft padding of a sentence meant to feel like love. But there was never an apology. Never a change. I slid the knife into the lemon again, then pressed delete without opening the message. There wasn't anything left to talk about. They had made their choices when they doubled my rent, when they let Bran coast, When they called my boundary dramatic and dragged me into court, they chose who they wanted to protect. And it wasn't the daughter who paid on time, kept receipts, and asked for nothing but respect. A week later, I got a family group message about meeting up to talk. I didn't reply. I didn't even open it. I archived the thread and set my phone on silent. That Sunday, I installed a new lock on my condo door. It wasn't just about security, it was about finality, about building a home where I didn't owe anyone explanations, where I wasn't a fallback or a fix-it plan in disguise. I didn't leave a spare key under the mat. No one was coming. When I closed the door behind me that evening, it made the softest click. No drama, no speech, just a choice made quietly. And this time, I didn't look back.